Welcome to Inner Worlds Outer Stories, where we look at our favorite characters and stories as more than just entertainment, as we see that they're actually reflections of our own maps and our own journeys of self-development. I'm Kristina, I'm a life alchemist, and today we are going to be talking about hero-villain pairings and how the best hero-villain pairings are actually totally mirrors of each other. They're existing on the same arc and how that makes it so much better. Today we're going to be talking about Harry Potter and Voldemort, Batman and Ra's al Ghul, Eleven and Vecna, Thanos and Iron Man, Charles Xavier and Magneto, Frodo and Gollum, and Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. These 7 unforgettable hero-villain pairings reveal the inner battles that we all face. From chosen ones and orphans to tyrants and redeemers, these stories reflect the hardest truths about power, fear, and transformation. The thing that we have to recognize is that we are all just one little action away from becoming our own worst enemy or our own hero. And this is the same in our self-development journey as well, whether it's on the screen or off. So let's begin with the boy who lived and the boy who couldn't bear to die. Harry Potter and Voldemort. They are 2 boys who are both orphaned by violence. Both are marked with a prophecy and both are chosen. Both of them are also exceptional in their own way, but one is driven by love and connection and the other is driven by the fear of death. Harry wins not because he's stronger, but because he accepts that death is a part of our life. Both Harry and Voldemort exist on the Divisive Immortal arc, which you can look about when you look at. You can learn more about this arc by looking at the Agatha Harkness video. Voldemort in his worst form is the archetype of this arc. He's the pinnacle villain, saying some lives matter and others are expendable. He catalyzes fear, chaos, and separation. He is the Divisive Immortal. Harry, on the other hand, moves through to transformation through death, the hero of this arc, and he becomes the healer eventually. The fascinating thing is that Harry faces death or near death in every single one of the books. 7 brushes with death for the 7 Horcruxes that Voldemort creates. We can see that 7 times throughout this entire series, there is an opportunity for Harry to not have to face death or to become afraid of death, and he over and over again chooses to face it. Voldemort and Harry start at the beginning of the series in a very similar place, in the beginning of their lives. They're both exceptional. Harry is protected by love, and Voldemort is born from lovelessness. That is the crux of the difference between them. Lily Potter's sacrificial love creates the energetic scar that sets Harry on a different path. The path of integration rather than division. Across the series, in The Sorcerer's Stone, he dies to separation from legacy and from family. Interestingly, the Mirror of Erised, which is what connected him with his family, is also used again in his potential death. In the Chamber of Secrets, he connects Tom Riddle's diary and faces death through possession. Voldemort, on the other hand, creates Horcruxes to avoid death. Harry creates nothing. He destroys what divides him from anybody else, including himself. And so we see Harry and Voldemort are 2 ends of the same spectrum. The fear of death versus the surrender to it. It's why they make such an amazing pairing, and why we see, particularly in the 5th book and movie, that Harry faces so much difficulty in recognizing the similarity that he has with Voldemort, but how he chooses love, friendship, and connection over the division that Voldemort seeks to include. Next, we're looking at Batman and Ra's al Ghul. This is from Batman Begins. Batman has a lot of different personifications, but we're using this one in particular because it really shows a very clear distinction between the fact that both men, both Ra's al Ghul and Batman and Bruce Wayne, are shaped by trauma and loss, and both fight crime, and both have intense moral codes. They both occupy the righteous bully arc, which says, I will control or destroy in order to protect. But the difference is how they do it. Ra's wants to purify by fire to destroy Gotham to save it, but Batman refuses to kill, even at the cost of his own safety. So what we see is that very clearly, they are very similar. They choose a moment in which Batman says, I'm not like you. And in doing that, he actually has a very different perspective on things, and that is where their arcs divide. Ra's al Ghul ends up dying because he cannot actually come to fruition of his arc, whereas Batman continues on. Bruce sacrifices himself, his identity, his happiness, his future with Rachel Dawes to hold a moral line, but he almost loses himself. He questions whether Bruce Wayne or Batman is the mask. And as we see him move through this arc, we see that he finally comes into an understanding of who he is and that he doesn't have to sacrifice Bruce Wayne in order to be Batman. Eventually, he learns to integrate both. He becomes the hero not by becoming darker, but becoming whole. And that's what we see when he's sitting there with Selena Kyle at the end. Next, Eleven Vecna. This story isn't finished. Season 5 will reveal the completion of this arc, but here's what we know and some guesses. Both were lab experiments. Both access power through trauma and emotion. Both are emotionally driven, fundamentally. They are both on the Invisible Destroyer arc. Where suppression, the Invisible Destroyer arc is all about suppression, disconnection, and dissociation, which lead to destruction. We see that Eleven is always struggling as the ultimate arc that she has between destruction and creation. The experience of creating the gate in the first place when she put and destroyed Henry or Vecna or One, when she pushed him into the Upside Down and created that destructive hole, that effectively made it so that all of a sudden everything else in this series is about her trying to create or to mend the destruction that she had before. What it seems obvious to me, Eleven is continually closing gates and trying to make up for her past destruction. But the thing is that ultimately she probably needs to create something new, to not just stop to the destruction, but to create something new, just like Henry did. So we'll see how this one ends up since it's in the middle of it, but I see her as becoming an architect, not just a weapon, and not just someone who's constantly trying to mend gates. She hasn't fully stepped into her full role at this point. She has connection, she has love, she has a number of different things that she's going on, which are very, very standard for how we see Harry Potter. How does Harry Potter become the hero? He has love, he has friends, he has connections. We see something similar with Eleven, but I think that there's more in store for her, and we'll see how that works out. Next up, Thanos and Iron Man. I'm not going to spend a long time on this one because I have an entire video on the righteous bully of Thanos and Aaron. Both of them are futurists, obsessed with saving the universe, but one does it through sacrifice of others, and the other does it through sacrificing himself. What more can I say besides a 20-minute video that you can go watch? The thing is that Thanos never compromises, and Stark learns to surrender his control. Both are on the righteous bully arc, but only Stark moves beyond it, aligning with others, and recognizing that he might not be the smartest guy in the room. Maybe the guy who can see every possibility for the future is. Who knows? Next, Frodo and Gollum. Frodo sees what he could become in Gollum. Gollum is his shadow. He's the addict. He's the consumed one. And what we recognize is that so much of the journey, especially in The Return of the King, is all about Frodo trying to not become Gollum and trying to pull the greater nature of Gollum back. This is difficult. As we can see and as we know, this is difficult because ultimately Frodo does end up as Gollum. But again, we see what is the difference between Frodo and Gollum. Gollum killed his companion. Sam was not killed. And Frodo survives not just because of his will, but because of Sam's love. And because he sees the monster he could become, Gollum reminds him to stay embodied, which means keeping his connection with Frodo. Frodo and Gollum are both invisible destroyers, like Eleven and Vecna. The difference is who they connect to. And lastly, we have Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, or Anakin Skywalker. Again, I have another whole video about this. They are a bloodline that's split. They resist fate. One dives in, all the way into the dark side, but Luke refuses to kill. Very similar to Batman. That's the test. He chooses vulnerability, he chooses surrender, he chooses connection, and he chooses to believe in hope. And in doing so, he transforms his father, Vader, who is a destroyer wanting to be a protector, but ended up being a destroyer otherwise. Also, we can look at Rey and Kylo Ren. This one is kind of obvious because it's a dyad and it's literally created to say, look, you have here and here's the opposite of you, and can you guys come together? Especially because we recognize that Ben Solo is someone who went to the dark side, who came from the light and who came from the Jedi. And then we have Rey, who's someone who came from the dark side and ended up a Jedi. So, isn't that amazing? The light side always works. It's not the light side. The Jedi and the Force always prevails in this perspective. So what's the point of understanding that these heroes and villains mimic themselves? I say that this is the work that we do because we want to understand how to apply it to our own lives. The trick is that oftentimes, when we have somebody difficult in our life, we are actually going to show up in the same arc as them when we are doing our own self-development work. Say that you find somebody who's exceptionally controlling, who's obsessed with the rules, and who's always wanting to inform you and let you know that something needs to be the case. You may end up being a perfectionist, a people pleaser, or maybe even feel like you have imposter syndrome. Those all exist on the arc of the obedient critic. And so we're able to use these examples of how these heroes move through their arcs versus the villains who don't, to be able to understand how to work our own self-development. So if you like this, please like, subscribe. We're trying to build our channel, and we would really appreciate any help that you have to give us for that. Comment as well. Any interaction helps.